When I think of self-expression, of course, so much can come up of what self-expression means. It can be in the clothing that we're all wearing, which you all can't see. It can be in the music that you make, like the different chords people put together, the words that people write. It can be the meals that you cook for someone. It can come out in so many different forms, even crying. My hope is just to support people in seeing their gold, because when people want to be confident, it's all about being comfortable in who they are. Like, confidence equals comfort.
To me, like, that's like real freedom as a person, to be able to access the good stuff even in the presence of the bad stuff. But it's very difficult because we're not trained to do that. We feel like we're either this or that. I had quite a few very important moments as an adult where I needed that safety and it wasn't there.
Not every person, not every human can express freely for so many different reasons. And I'll speak from my own experience of being a woman. I can feel it in a room of all men, the hesitation I feel of expressing anything. And yeah, it is a privilege to be like, okay, here's who I am. I'm going to share it with the world and I'm not going to be shunned for it.
It's interesting when one faction thinks it's expressing and meets another faction that's equally opposing that also thinks it's expressing, and that's, I feel, the tension that we're feeling in America right now.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, big time.
And that's why it feels like it's about to pop. What are some of the ways that we can make someone feel safe?
Yo, you made it. My name is Omar and I'm honored to welcome you to the Gumcast, where we have deep conversations about the human spirit and what keeps us going despite the shittiness of it all. Our goal is to encourage you to feel seen, heard, and understood. So tune in for real and raw conversations and become part of them on findgumption.com.
Hello, and welcome to the last episode of Season 2 of the Gumcast. If you've been following, you know that we've tackled a lot of the heavy topics that may keep us from being our full and healthiest selves in this season. We have discussed delightful topics such as nationalism, Palestine and Israel, gender imbalance, erectile dysfunction, race and racism, homophobia, divorce and heartbreak, losing a parent, physical injuries, suicide, and how technology can numb us. Today's episode is about how all of these things create a layer of clay on top of our psyches that stops us from finding gumption and shining the gold that we all carry inside. In today's episode, we will wrap up this season by crying and laughing about all of this and discussing how self-expression can be a very windy road towards the gumption that we all seek. This finale is extra special because it features the producer of Season 1 and the co-creator of the Gumcast and my brother and friend Paul Kist. And together, we will take you on a journey into the magical, hilarious, and very real world of our dearest friend, Stacie B, who is an improv facilitator, and she has guided many people across many walks of life towards finding their confidence to express fully, shed the clay, and shine their fucking gold. I know that this finale will inspire you to think of how you express yourself, what things may be repressed within you, and an overall picture that we will draw about how expression impacts us through a lot of our own vulnerable storytelling, which we hope you know us for by now. It's been an honor to create these episodes for you. Thank you for listening. And if you can, please help us fund the third season by becoming a paid subscriber on findgumption.com. It will really help us continue funding this project with the quality that we aim to deliver it with. So without further ado, I bring to you Stacie B and Paul Kist, and this is the self-expression episode. Paul Kist, welcome back to the new and improved studio.
I love it. If the listeners could see the beautiful fabrics and colors and glowing suns, and it's really a sight to see, folks. Now, this is a very special episode for me specifically. These are my last few weeks here in the Bay. So this is a very bittersweet moment, but at the same time, what an honor to be part of this, to work with you, to see this little seed from 3 years ago blossom into everything that has come out of it and still to come. And here we are.
Thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure. It's great to be back on the Gumcast.
Yes, on the first day of August, and we have a very special guest that we can't wait to have her. We've had such a fun time for the past 3 years, but also 3 hours. And it's so good to have you on the Gumcast, Stacie. Welcome.
Oh, and just, I want to call out the genius that is this sound booth that we are in. It is spectacular.
Thank you. Thank you. I think there is something magical about recording this audio rather than showing it in video. I know that people are used to video, but then we can have the lights off and we can light up candles and we are sitting in a very relaxed state, I feel. Standing
Yeah.
in a very relaxed state.
But if only you could see our outfits.
Oh my God.
That's the only thing.
Yeah, the outfits are for us. Like,
Okay.
art is also for the artist, right?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of deep stuff that we want to talk about today because we're going to be talking about self-expression.
Ooh.
And the reason why it's such a treat to have Stacie with us is because she's first and foremost an improv actress and artist. She practices both performing it and teaching it to people to help them free and unleash their true gold within them. And we're going to talk a whole lot about that and what she does. And it's a true blessing to be in a space with you, let alone
my
record this.
goodness.
And it's going to be a treat for everyone listening. So thank you.
Are you kidding me? This is just what I want to be. This is exactly what I want to be doing. And thank you for having me here.
So self-expression is not an easy thing to do. And I was fortunate enough to be guided with Stacie through performing improv, which I didn't believe that I could ever do. And Stacie would tell me, we need to go and practice. And I'd be like, all right, I'm like prepared for my mentor to come and teach me the ways of improv. I'm like taking myself so seriously. And she's like, all right, what are we having for dinner? Okay, let's sing a song. Now we're going to play a game. And now we're going to act like animals. Now we're going to act like babies. And now we're going to tell a story. And now we're going to just dance a little bit. And then she's like, well, I'll see you in the next practice.
Practice in air quotes.
Practice in air quotes. So yeah, self-expression is something that I have been manifesting for myself. And this project has been like something that I feel like I needed to bring out. And it started with a novel that's actually inspired by a story around like another man expressing himself to me. And hopefully I'll get the chance to share that and reminisce on that story later in the episode with Paul, who was also there. And that was the nucleus of a novel that then was the nucleus of this podcast of like just sharing stories with others and helping everyone express so that we learn from them. And I want to start off by thanking Paul for helping me believe in myself because it wasn't really easy to start expressing myself coming from especially like a science background and taking myself too seriously for a very long time. I felt like there was this layer that I had to shed. And a lot of these exercises that you showed me, Stacie, like really help us stop thinking and becoming, be. Yes. And that's it. And another aspect that I really loved about improv is that we always think in the real world that we have the quote unquote real world is that we know everything, we have everything to express. And then improv is more about building upon what's there from others, right? Yes, and. Can you explain the process of yes and just to get us started?
Course. Yes, and I feel like when most people hear that, they're like, ugh, improv. But really, it's such a deeper philosophy, and you can use it in so many different ways. Especially, I like to use it in the ways that I collaborate with people, the way I care for people, the way I support people when they're expressing themselves. And the whole of it is you hear someone, you hear what they say, and you acknowledge with yes, even if you disagree, and you build with, and it's not saying you have to say yes to everything, but it is in a way, that acknowledgement that we all are seeking. We all want to be seen. We all want to be heard.
I'm wondering if you could show us what that means.
Oh, yeah.
In a more tangible way.
Of course. So let's just do something fun. Do you guys like fun or not? Like, really?
I'm into fun.
Yeah,
You know,
okay.
I can be fun
On the
sometimes.
weekends.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. It's not the weekend. It is Monday. But we're still gonna... let's play it. Let's play something.
Okay.
Okay.
It's not sanctioned fun time normally, but you know what? I think I will allow it. So
Okay.
let's-
We're all going outside
here
of
to
our
take
comfort
risks
zone.
after all.
Yes,
Yes, okay.
exactly.
Yes.
What we're going to do is we're going to say our name, and we're not just going to say our name, we're going to express our name. We're going to use our vocal voice cords. That's the scientific terminology here. And then I know we're in a tight space, and but we're going to use our bodies in some way. And then the two of you, let's say I say my name, you're both going to mirror exactly what you heard. It's almost like that yes and, but really without the yes and. It's going to be mirroring it. So we'll go around a circle. Maybe Omar, you can start, and Paul and I will do it, and we can go a little circle.
Omar.
Perfect.
Yeah, that was good. Paolo.
Paolo.
Nice.
Felt like I was in a Western standoff.
Yeah, it totally looked like it.
Felt that.
Okay, here we go. Stacie. Great. That is it. And I'm curious, just maybe in a sentence or a few words, like for both of you, what was the sensation that you both felt when your name was played back to you?
I may have to hear it again. It was.
We can record this next year.
Yeah, for sure.
August 1st, 2023.
Well, let's try this.
It's 2033. We're still recording.
Yeah.
Pablo.
Pablo.
Oh, my ears tingle. My ears tingle.
So I felt like this warm fuzziness, close to tingling. Yeah.
Nice.
But in your ears, huh? You felt it in your ears?
Specifically, like right on
Like
the
on the
ridges,
outside.
on the
Cartilages?
outside. Yeah, on the cartilage.
Okay.
Where you have it pierced.
It almost happened. This one time.
Stay tuned for season 3.
Yeah. Where I re-pierce Paul's cartilage.
Live on video.
Yeah.
How did it feel for you, Stacie?
Oh my gosh. Immediately I felt awful because I went so high in I was like, I can't even say that. And then I'm like, oh no. But you both did it in your own ways. You know, you reflected it back in your own way. And it's nice to also hear your name, like, period. You know?
Yes. And the audience is now, they've heard your name. They've definitely got a big flavor of the magic of Stacie so far. But we also always start with a story to help people really connect with who you are and get us beneath the surface into a deep dive into whatever is going to come out in this episode about self-expression. So we'd love to start off by inviting you to share a story with us about self-expression in your life.
Yeah. So much comes up around this topic. It's something that I struggle with and I am healing in, and I help others heal in it. But as I help others heal, I am healing, watching them heal. It's like this whole big loop. But one story that comes to mind, I remember very random details, but first off, the way in which I'm able to express myself is when I feel safe expressing myself. It sounds very basic, but when I feel like I'm not going to be yelled at or feel judged. My very dear friend, her name sounds just like mine, but with a C, Casey, we got into a little quarrel. I don't remember exactly why. I think it was something that one of us said and it rubbed us the wrong way. And we can tell there was just something between us. And so we removed ourselves from our group and we were in a hotel room when this happened. And we went into the hotel, not the lobby, but like the place that you strangely wait for elevators. And there was no seating. Like, it's not really a place to wait other than for the elevator to come get you. But we just plopped down and sat on the gross rug. And we were facing each other and we expressed very rawly, if that's a word, from our hearts. And just from previous experiences with her, I felt so safe to just be like, hey, here's what it was. And this conversation, I thought it was just going to be maybe like a 5-minute, you good, sister? I'm good. We're good. Let's go back. And it ended up being the most emotionally and spiritually, I'm going to say, wild turn of events in our conversation. And we went from speaking the truth, and then the truth brought us to tears. I can't remember if she was crying. I know I started crying and speaking at the same time. And in that, just so much, I felt so heard by her, and I felt like I was able to express what was real. And I think that crying in general plays such a big role into us feeling like we can, or what I feel like I can express. Crying is so healthy. It is so needed in this world. I love crying. I will cry. I want to cry in front of as many people as I can, just so that others know they can cry in front of me. Like I remember that moment so much because I felt so safe to express, to cry, to let anything that wanted to get out in that conversation. And I feel so thankful that memory sits in a beautiful frame in my mind. The end.
Of the beginning.
Yeah.
It's the end of the beginning.
Exactly.
I think what really hit me, Stacie, from your story is when you said that you want to cry in front of as many people as possible, just so you can let them know that it's okay. And in the topic of self-expression, there's so much of self-expression that revolves around permission, knowing that it is okay to do, whether it's crying or laughing or singing something or sharing a truth about yourself or about something deep in your heart. Sometimes, at least for someone like me, seeing someone else do it totally opens that door. So you'd be giving a lot of people a pretty great gift if you can let them know that crying is okay.
Yeah, and crying is also, it has a whole history of every time someone cries, or I feel like when I've cried in the past, more times than not, people are like, oh, don't cry. No, you're doing something wrong. And yet we all know what it feels like after the cry, post-cry is glorious.
It really is.
So that's like, when I think of self-expression, of course, so much can come up of what self-expression means. It can be in the clothing that we're all wearing, which you all can't see. It can be in the music that you make, like the different chords people put together, the words that people write. It can be the meals that you cook for someone. It can come out in so many different forms, even crying.
Yeah, and it's not the thing that we think about in self-expression. We usually think of a lot of the things that you just mentioned, right? Like creatively expressing ourselves and like rock star glory rather than vulnerable crying. And I wanted to ask you about what you were talking about when you mentioned spirituality as like something opening up spiritually through that kind of crying or through connecting with that pain and being able to put it out there. And because of that, connecting with someone else. Can you tell us a little bit more about what kind of seems like something opened up or there was a space that wasn't there before?
Yeah, I think that in order to even have some type of like connection when you're expressing with another person, there has to be a level of receiving. Is this person going to receive me telling my truth? And because I felt that so strongly, because I felt such a strength between our bond, I think that Casey was receiving what I was putting out there. And it's almost, I shared, she caught it, and we linked. And like, we rose up together. And I feel like it was almost this like elevated state of mind. It was so late at night. We were both exhausted. I think we performed that night. And yet we were talking, it felt like for hours. We were both dripping sweat. It wasn't hot. And when I say it was a spiritual experience, is my body was having sensations like sweating. And that's because of the way that we were connecting and seeing each other in what we were expressing.
I'm like dripping sweat right now just listening to this. And that actually makes me think when crying is a form of purging, and we can do that in so many ways, like gutturally, not with
brilliant music or words or paintings, but with crying and vomiting and sweating.
Like releasing.
100%. Actually, one of my big releases, I don't know if it's because I'm a water sign, but I am a Pisces, and vomiting is not something that comes very easy to me, but snotting, drooling, not necessarily crying, but like tears from the eyes, sweating, things like water coming out of my body is a form of purging that I do. It's almost like the feeling of getting the flu, even though I never caught a germ, but it's just that my body working something out.
I'm curious, what's your relationship to crying? Is there something that you think of when I say crying? I feel like everyone has a different relationship to crying in general.
Yeah, I actually do. It's the topic of self-expression is very interesting, especially because I grew up in a context where self-expression wasn't really encouraged at all. In fact, it was very much shut down. In order to just make it as a kid in the world and the family and the culture I grew up in, especially also as a boy, there are certain expectations that was very clearly communicated to me around how I can and should express myself. And specifically in the topic of grief or crying, yeah, it was definitely not in the cards, not one of those activities that was encouraged as a kid, even especially growing up. And as a result, and I didn't know this until maybe a few years ago, but I had a whole lot of grief that just stayed stuck in parts of my body, if not just like one part of my body. And yeah, just so like this very powerful experience that I had was actually during the pandemic, where we were all on lockdown. And in my particular situation, I was living in an apartment in Oakland, but I was not quarantined with anybody. It was just me, myself, and I in this apartment in Oakland with really nowhere to go, nothing to do, no physical contact. And the introvert in me loved this for the first month. It was awesome that I didn't have to really deal with anyone for 30 days. But then after 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, things come up. When you're sitting with yourself, there's only so many series you can binge watch on Netflix, right? That I start having memories of events and specifically situations of being bullied actually as a kid. And believe it or not, the bullying didn't come from school. In fact, school was a great time. I really loved it. But it was more in the context of family and church, the two places where you should feel the safest. Imagine. But I remember I started having memories of specific relationships, specific people who were very unkind to me as a kid. Especially these were people whose friendship or connection I greatly desired. And as the memories came back and like the accumulation of things and this really happened and this really happened, it became overwhelming for me. I remember there was like once all the memories surfaced, there was a week where I was pretty much a fish. I didn't want to do much besides just think about how could have all of this happened. And then there was this one afternoon where I decided I'm going to just go right into these experiences. I'm going to try to feel them exactly as they were. Because imagine I had not even touched them since, for at that point, maybe 30 plus years. And then I remember once I started feeling into them, it was just rage, so much anger towards certain individuals, people in my family, people outside of my family, in the church. And I remember, again, just being almost overwhelmed with anger, like, how could this have happened? And then the anger, I remember seeing a picture of myself as a kid. And I remember, like, images of that I've seen in photos of myself. And I remember seeing this kid in the context of all these things that were happening. And it was like this deep sense of injustice. Like, you didn't deserve any of this. But in a way that I had never felt before, because I think when you grow up with certain kinds of trauma, you almost inherently believe you deserve it, because that's one way to actually get through it. And it was actually the first time I actually was able to look at that kid and be like, you deserve none of this. The moment I said this, it was out of my control, just started crying really hard and almost like wailing into a pillow. I lived in a flat with so many neighbors above and next to me. I turned on some Bon Jovi just to drown it out. Obviously. And I just let myself have at it, like, and this may have lasted for an hour plus, maybe 2 hours.
My
Yeah, I did not move. There was like sweating and shaking, and it was out of my control. It was just happening. And when it was done, I just felt this openness. and this spaciousness. And then I started laughing. I was filled with so much joy. And then once I stopped laughing and I just sat there, I heard something that I hadn't heard in a very long time. It was almost as if the HVAC system of white noise that's always there playing just turned off. And it was just silence. It was this feeling of being completely clear. And yeah, to me, that was a very important moment that taught me a few things. One, we can work through our feelings if we allow ourselves to do so. We spend so much time pushing them away. And number two, there is great joy and freedom in just letting yourself be and feel exactly how you are. Even if it is in the privacy of your own home with Bon Jovi blaring in the background. But the point is, you give yourself the space to do it. And that for me was such a great gift that led to so many other openings in the years to follow.
Beautiful.
Especially identifying, like being aware that this kid does not deserve this. And the things that we hold on to that kind of create these sediments over what we are.
Yeah.
And you and I, Stacie, were just talking about this Tara Brach metaphor, like the story. Of course, she was talking about the golden Buddha that people wanted to go steal, but it was covered in this layer of clay. And so when they raided the monastery, they killed all the monks and they went in and they just saw something made out of clay and they left it, thinking that it's worthless. And the story is that this clay is really the protective layer that we create with all these traumatizing experiences. And they are traumas, like we can't belittle them. They're not maybe what we think in terms of a crisis, but it's a psychological crisis that's happening inside, especially at that young age. And your story reminded me of one where I was supposed to present something in front of a bunch of adults, including my dad. And it was like a charity event that was all these rich people helping orphans and stuff like that. And it was already feeling intimidating and stuffy, but I was amongst the youth and I was put in a position to give a speech that I was not prepared for at all. And I was supposed to express as a group what we were doing. And I went up with this other kid because the woman that was supposed to, or the girl that was supposed to give that talk couldn't do it. She was like frozen. And we were like, okay, we're going to do it, but we didn't know what to do. And I'd never spoken in front of an audience before, ever, and had no script or nothing. So we went up and realized how clueless we were and just started laughing our asses off in front of everyone. And my dad told me this phrase that I still can't forget. In Arabic, it's "كان نفسي الأرض تنشق وتبلعني," which literally means that I hoped the earth's core would open up and swallow me alive rather than experience this moment. It was like, yeah, big time. And now that I'm trying to uncover a lot of these layers, a lot of the inner critics that kind of, this like self-flagellation, this, because I was so young and so vulnerable, is part of this clay, part of what the story that I keep telling myself, that I don't deserve people to hear me because I have nothing to say, because we're impressionable at that age, and we discount things because now we're grown-ups and we're supposed to be cool and we got our shit together, but there's a lot of shit
Yes.
from earlier that we discount. Let's talk a little bit about what kind of makes us safe to express now that we're coming back to being well educated about trauma and understanding how that affects us now. And my question to you, Stacie, is what are some of the ways that we can make someone feel safe? And both as an improv teacher and the work that you do, especially with women, and because you're the woman in the room too, I feel like you're well credentialed to teach us that. Because it's something we lack as men. We know how to be fierce, we know how to make the other person feel very threatened, but creating that space to allow people to express and heal with us is not something that comes naturally to us. And so what are some of the characteristics of a safe space? What are some of the ways that we can gift that to others?
Yeah, it's such a good question. And I am going to share what you two men do to make me feel safe, because I have spent just wonderful moments with both of you, and I feel so safe and comfortable being my true self. I would say something that feels really good when I was going to say getting to know someone, but no, anytime, is just creating space for someone to share without being like the fixer. Like unsolicited feedback is something that everyone does. I do it all the time.
Mhm.
But there's something that is, I don't even know the word, just like it feels so good when someone either just listens and says maybe nothing, or reflects something back, or asks a question. And you both do such a good job of not, I don't know, I don't feel like any judgment from either of you. I feel anytime I've shared something more on the vulnerable side, I feel like there's this element of receiving, like going back to what I was saying about my dear friend, is there's this, you know what it is like this attention. You can call it presence, you can call it attention, and this not being on your phone, not making it feel like you're going to leave the room as soon as I share something vulnerable, but you're here. We're
Mhm.
here. And I think that so often when I have felt the opposite of safe, it's when they don't even hear what I'm saying, or they're just like, okay, cool, I gotta go catch my Uber. And I feel this sense of we're gonna be holding this space until none of us need it, unless we have to go number 2 or 3. So those are a couple of things, and I try my best to extend that, especially when I meet strangers. And self-expression could be so hard, at least for me, to show who I am meeting people off the street. But I really like to open this invisible door to be like, hey, I don't know you, you don't know me, and there's space for you and me to both show our weirdness. And yeah, I think this like approachability or like friendliness, I feel like something that I really value is like this warmth. I feel like warmth is in safety for me. I don't know. Can you guys help me like define what warmth means? It's something that I think about very often. As men, like, what do you guys feel the warmth from other men or other people?
Feeling a lot of warmth on my
We need a towel.
I'm just sweating balls here.
And I accept it.
Thank
Yeah.
you. It's my self-expression.
welcome.
Yeah.
It's welcome.
It's here to stay.
It's my speech trauma. Glad I released that. So I'm releasing it. Warmth. What is warmth? There's something about like being seen
Mm-hmm.
that makes the space warm. If someone notices something or is really listening to me, it immediately becomes warm. Whereas you're mentioning the distraction, yeah. It's just the way my brain is wired, but yeah, like that creates a coldness immediately. I'll start going into a story of why does that person not care about me?
Yeah.
Or maybe I have nothing interesting to say. Depends on my mood that day, but there's the warmth or coldness based on how much the person in the room sees me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely relate to that a lot. And just so like when I think about warmth, to answer your question, I think about it in a very physical process. Like when the brain releases oxytocin, it gives you this feeling of warmth in the body, like a very tangible feeling that scientific experts will call the warm fuzzies. And it's something that is easily attained when someone gives you a hug. You feel that. If someone gives me a hug, I feel that warmth. But then some of the things you mentioned, Omar, about like being heard, being seen, having a real tangible experience that the person you're with or the people you're with are there for you, with you, without judgment, it actually creates that same warmth in my body. Sometimes I may need to express myself, but I'm not feeling the warmth.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow life has told me you are now responsible for expressing yourself in this moment. How can I create that warmth for myself? And that's some of the things I've been trying to learn in my older years. In the absence of those wonderful ingredients, be it hugs or listening ears or non-judgmental friends, how can I conjure that up inside myself so I can show up when I need to the way I want to? Because I think so often in my younger years, I was just, whatever the circumstance offered me, I would either go with it or not. And for me, warmth is something that is important to me, not just for who I surround myself with, but what can I do inside of myself to conjure up the same thing?
Yeah. Yeah. And we were chatting earlier about how to build that safety, because we were just talking about, when I answered your question, Omar, about what I do and what people do, to give me safety, what I do to give others safety, that's like external. And I know that, Paul, like you are so internally strong on so many levels. And I feel like you create internal safety for yourself. And I feel like if everyone can have internal safety for themselves, it would be such a different experience for people in the world. I'm a human. I seek safety and validation externally, and it'll be my lifelong's work, whatever, to get to build that internal safety. And what has helped you build that safety so that you can express when it's not available externally?
I'm taking notes here.
Me too. We both have our binders out with highlighters and gel pens.
It's funny because most of my life I would have characterized myself in the same way of needing the validation of others. And yet at the same time, I could look back at points in my life where I have done things that a conscious younger Paul should have known would not conjure up the acceptance of others. I have many of these stories, and yet somehow I was able to show up then. But those moments were immediately followed by stern retribution from community, parents, society. And I would go back into my cave. And I remember thinking, I wish I could be someone who can just say what they feel or say what needs to be said and just be okay with it, even if everyone's like just rejecting what you're saying. And I think I'm still very vulnerable to that. But I think in these later years, these middle years of my life, I've definitely experienced moments where I felt I had no choice but to self-express in the absence of, it's almost like I had quite a few very important moments as an adult where I needed that safety and it wasn't there. And I think moments like that have oriented me to seek it out because I don't think I was willing to go back into a shell. Once you escape the shell, after having been in it for a long time, there's no way to go back. There's no way. At least for me, I was not willing to go back. So I had to freaking find whatever resource I could find to create that safety. And so you see me going into courses for Qigong and like practicing, because I know that helps to create warmth in my belly, which gives me the sense of safety, which helps me do what I need to do, or practicing meditation, or making conscious decisions to stay connected to people who I feel safe with. Tap into that feeling of what does it feel like to talk to Omar, to talk to Stacie? What does it feel like when I talk to them? How can I take that with me to this conversation with someone who may not give two shits what I have to say? Can I picture these safe people around me? There's a much longer answer to your question, but these are some of the tools that have helped me when I am able to access it. I'm not always able to access it, unfortunately, but just like you, it's a life's work in progress.
I love that last part about choosing who surrounds you is also part of the internal work, right? So
Yes.
we can actually choose to be around people that resonate. We were talking about frequencies earlier, that people whose frequencies we can tune into and vibe with
Yeah, totally.
versus ones that would block what you want to express.
Yeah.
Unless you have to do that, you don't have to. Right?
You don't have to.
Yeah.
There, like that story of the golden Buddha covered in clay. Yeah, I'm at a point in life where I know when I'm around people where clay has to be on. And I almost have no patience for that shit anymore. None. Like I want to be around people who I can let the gold shine through. And it is internal work because we get to choose who we're with. If we're constantly choosing to spend time with people who we can't be ourselves with, we need to ask ourselves, why are we making that choice? And take responsibility for it. So I totally agree with you. It is definitely internal work, even if it does involve someone else. It's like you made the choice to bring that person into your space.
Yeah, and you test the waters with your clay versus your gold. It's you take little pieces of the clay off and you're like, is this safe? Is this okay? Is this person here? No? Okay, let me just put that clay back on with a little bit more clay on top of that. And it's like a process. It doesn't just go from clay to gold. At least for me, it is such a process. And I have had a few moments where my gold has been almost clayless. And in those very rare moments, I'm just like, oh, and then my clay comes back on, of course.
Yeah, and there's a sensitivity about that state, right? Where you are in your gold. It's like almost you're exposed to brutal weather and animals and all sorts of things that the flower is coming out, but now it's out in the world so it can be eaten by
Plucked.
or plucked.
Taken.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great place to take a break and a breather. And when we come back, I'd love for us to talk more about shedding clay and for us to dive deeper into what Stacie does for a living these days.
That'll be great. I look forward to it.
Me
Stacie?
too. I really do. And we're all really warm right now.
Super warm. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
I hope you're enjoying this last episode of season 2. Part 2 gets even more juicy. And I just want to remind you that there's a lot more where this comes from at findgumption.com.
Welcome back.
It's good to be back.
It's good to be back.
It's good to be here.
And it's good to be away too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just take a break, not work ourselves too hard.
No.
But we're back with more.
And
So-
we want to get like guttural to start.
Yeah.
And we're talking about self-expression. A lot of it has to do with our voice. Like it could be loud, and if I want to tell you something really important, I would go all the way down. And Paul, earlier you were telling us about certain voices that really resonated with us to express this idea of gold and clay and how that manifests. Can you share with us what those sounds are?
Yeah, totally. We were talking specifically in the context of like art and music specifically that's come out of using substances, using drugs. And as a college kid, I was obsessed with those artists who dabbled in different chemicals in order to enhance their art. And did some reading recently about how people seek out these substances really to suppress the uncomfortable parts of us in order to be able to free up those more self-expressed parts. And I think that's why a lot of musicians or artists in general will tap into their gold by suppressing their inner like I guess that was the sound. It's like when people use substances, it's really to suppress.
Can we try to make that sound together just to see its
Yeah.
energy?
Yeah.
All
For
right.
sure. In order to feel more of the
It feels much more relaxing.
much more relaxing. I think the idea is that the is always there. When you wonder how can we even as artists tap into even in the presence of the to me like that's like real freedom as a person to be able to access the good stuff even in the presence of the bad stuff. But it's very difficult because we're not trained to do that. We feel like we're either this or that. And so
Yeah, and speaking of substances and how it affects self-expression, how it affects artists and their lives, there is, in the sense of numbing, it reminds me of Billie Holiday's story, which a lot of us think of. We're probably thinking of people like Jim Morrison and the Beatles and Pink Floyd that are notoriously known for psychedelics and moving the needle on that. But with Billie Holiday, it was a story about heroin, and it was so intertwined with not just her expression, but the expression of Black people in the United States in general, and the reaction of the forces that be to stop that expression from happening because it's threatening the status quo. And so frequently our self-expression is contorted by forms of oppression that are everywhere, right? And right now it feels like we need to express a certain way or we are part of them or the other. And the story of Billie Holiday is particularly powerful because she was a heroin user before heroin was even illegal. She was being administered heroin in a clinic in a very safe way. And it definitely helped her create her art because at that point, I don't think we had a lot of the tools that we have now to manage that clay, these hardened feelings that we never really heal from to reach that gold of self-expression. But she was using heroin, and then because of her songs, and particularly one that
was about lynching, and then it helped spread awareness and help people really feel how much of a travesty it is that Black people can be subjugated to something such as that. The government and the DEA started figuring out that if they target heroin users, then they will be able to capture a lot of those Black activists in cells. And she has a very tragic story, even though we know her as a very famous singer, but she was thrown in jail multiple times during the height of her career and then threatened to not sing that song, to not express that one song about lynching. And every time she would go out, sing a concert, and sure enough, she would throw it in there, and then they would put her in jail. And that kept going on until her body was so weak through both the addiction and being thrown in jail. And she died in the hospital very young. And we're talking about a young woman that lived in the 50s at the height of her career. And it only and there's an incredible book called Chasing the Scream about how that has been happening throughout the ages, but also this movie called United States versus Billie Holiday, which I highly recommend. Excellent movie. And we were talking earlier about how self-expression is really a privilege, right? Like Stacie, you were saying that.
Yeah. I feel like not every person, not every human can express freely for so many different reasons. And I'll speak from my own experience of being a woman. I can feel it in a room of all men, the hesitation I feel of expressing anything. And yeah, it is a privilege to be like, okay, here's who I am. I'm going to share it with the world and I'm not going to be shunned for it. And just thinking about, especially in the United States, it seems like it's a lot easier to express who you are than other cultures and other countries. And just realizing there's a lot of fucked up things in America. But one thing is just the ability to speak freely is a real privilege.
Yeah, and we're seeing that being almost a veil for us to not accept the other. And it's interesting when one faction thinks it's expressing and meets another faction that's equally opposing that also thinks it's expressing. And that's, I feel, the tension that we're feeling in America right now.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, big time.
And that's why it feels like it's about to pop, because there's this just an overflow of judgment out there in the world against anyone that's expressing something that goes against. And it's interesting to start thinking of, okay, are these things that I'm expressing that way, are they really my thoughts? And why am I so afraid to hear someone express something differently?
Yeah. And top of mind is everything in the United States around abortion rights. And I recently had a conversation with a friend that I love and respect, and she sits on the opposite side where she's pro-life, and we've sat down and both have felt what you were just saying, is that rubbing up against our own expression of what we feel, our own belief. And the only difference of why it didn't turn sour is because we met the other person with acceptance, and we were like, okay, all right, you're saying that, and I'm just going to let that, I accept that's your opinion, and I don't judge it, and I'm not going to say anything about it. But it's so hard to do when you don't have that relationship with someone. It's so easy to just be like, the way that you're expressing is not right.
Yeah. I mean, going back to the idea of safety, security, when I am feeling insecure about a particular idea or belief or issue, I don't want to hear what someone else has to say about it. Even if I say this is the thing I choose to believe in, if I'm not secure in it, I need the other party to go away. I need those ideas to not be expressed because it's threatening my own sense of what I know. And something really beautiful happens when you have two people with opposite opinions who actually have that security, who are able to have room for the other person, the acceptance that you mentioned, Stacie. Yeah, I wonder what our current status as a country would look like if we all felt maybe more secure in our different beliefs, enough to allow an actual conversation or allow room for, I guess, people to express what they can without us shunning them and them shunning us. So
yeah, one person who does this so well is, her name Sarah Silverman?
Sarah Silverman,
the
comedian.
Yeah, she does this show, and I forget everything, so I forget the name of the show. Maybe it's like Something About America, I Love You, America, where she goes into homes and she knows that she has an opposing belief and she has dinner with them and she meets them with acceptance, even though she knows how far on the other side she sits. And it just is proof that even if we do really disagree with someone, the way that they express themselves, with their way they dress or their sexuality, even if it's so different than ours, it does not mean that's the end of the road for that bond.
No.
There's so much we can learn when someone expresses themselves differently that we do.
100%. It's also very complicated too, because we're also humans and we have feelings.
That's right.
And there are some issues that I know maybe I feel secure about, but if someone says a certain thing or presses a certain button, I could instantly shut down. But I'm still reminded of, even there was this Uber driver who drove me to Kennedy Airport on my way back to San Francisco. And the beginning of the car ride, there was a lot of friendliness between us. I felt like I was really bonding with this person. And then he started sharing a lot of his beliefs about various things that I could not be more opposed to. But there was something about the bond we established before that just stayed in the room, or stayed in the car, rather, the car, where I felt safe enough to be like, okay, this is what I believe. Check this out. And then we had this conversation where he's like, I disagree with everything you say, but I like you.
And I think there's a lot of virtue in that. Like, I'm hearing so many stories about families breaking up, friends not being able to hang out with each other anymore. And it's this isolation. And we think that we have a choice because there are two choices. But I think even two choices are so limiting to the amount of things that we can express and ideas to have and future to create. It's not just two different futures. And now I'm seeing a trend that is similar to where I come from, where there is only one narrative. And if you're out of the narrative, you're out of it. Now there are two narratives, but it's still the same end result. You're oppressed by the other in some way. And there are ways for us to shed this clay, right? There is a lot of tools that are becoming so important for us in this day and age. And I'd love to give that chance to Stacie, because I think the work that she does and her moves in career so far is such an important piece to the puzzle. So Stacie, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do day to day right now?
I would be honored. I will start with just saying how much joy I felt in taking my first improv class back in the day. And I took it because I felt isolated. I was living in New York City. I would ask someone for the time on the street. They'd be like, you don't have a fucking watch? And I'm like, I do. I'm just trying to like make friends. And exactly, Paul. And I was really craving this friendliness and just wanting to be seen. And so I was like, let me try this improv class. And in that, I found a bunch of just weirdos like myself. And I was able to, I guess, find what I was looking for, to ask them for the time. And maybe they would say something weird and not answer it, but that felt better than a stranger yelling at me on the street. And so from that point, improv stayed with me as I made a move to San Francisco. I took a level 2. And at the end of that class, my teacher sent me an email that kind of felt like if Saturday Night Live reached out to me and was like, you want to try out? It was the same exact feeling I had. Her name is Sarah Shoemaker. I have so much respect for her. And she asked a few of us to form a women's collective, like an improv troupe. And I was working at a tech company, performing after work. And then this company, Speechless, did an improv workshop at the company. And I remember everyone in the room walking in and being like, what is this? What is this? And then over the course of 4 hours, everyone was sweating. People were just, you can see the connections people were making. And that night, I emailed both of the co-founders and just spilled my heart. I kept it professional, but spilled my heart. And a year later, I was working full-time for them. I've been there for 3 years, and it's an improv thinking company that's very bite-sized, but really, we work with companies and individuals that want to have better tools for public speaking, using their voice, feeling more comfortable. And so I do a lot there. I wear many different hats, as everyone on our team does. But these days I work very closely with clients to come up with workshops that match what they want to do, whether it's I want our team to just bond with each other, or I want our team to have better storytelling skills or feel safe. That safety piece really comes up, feel safe speaking in front of their coworkers and bring their outside of work person into their work person so that it's more wholesome. And I also am a facilitator. It's one of my favorite parts of my job. Facilitate groups of anywhere from 8 to 500 people. And I also really enjoy working one-on-one with people, one-on-one coaching. And that work feels so meaningful. I learned so much from that. In those sessions, they're very, believe it or not, they're very improvised. We have things we want to do, but we allow space to share where people are. Like, what's your relationship to public speaking? What's your relationship to expressing yourself? And from there, like once I hear them and they say it, and I'll tailor different exercises to meet them where they are. And that safety piece gets built within the conversations that we have, within the exercises that we do, and we play. Wow, did we all forget as adults how to play? I definitely did. And when I go back to playing, it gives this common ground where we were all children. I'm pretty sure everyone was a child, just as we're all gonna die. We were all children. And it sparks that gold. That is, I get to see these people in sessions come in with so much clay covered. The whole room is clay. And then slowly, and even if we just get one little chunk of clay off, it is so hugely beneficial. That I learned so much. I hope they do. And my hope is just to support people in seeing their gold, because when people want to be confident, it's all about being comfortable in who they are. Like, confidence equals comfort. I won't even go into getting outside of your comfort zone, but yeah, feeling comfortable with yourself, that's really when we're like, oh, that person's so confident. So that's a little bit about the work I do, and it's been just such a unexpected to treasure to work with people at FLS Plus, we're now called FLS Plus, and see the transformation in people by even a 1-hour session.
Is there a website?
There is a website. It is FLS Plus, spelled out, .com. And not to name drop, but Wayne Brady is part of our team now. And it's just a bunch of people that really value play and self-expression, being heard, hearing others. And it feels like medicine. I know you both are in the medical field, and we work with scientists to study what happens to people's brains when they do improv, but it does feel like the medicine that I need, that others need right now.
Yeah, I think we all need this medicine. Excuse me. I think we all need this medicine pretty desperately. And one thing that's really important about your work, Stacie, is that it reminds me that it is a process to feel safe. It's not an on and off switch where I am safe, I am not safe. Now, for example, the two of you are two people I can easily say, yeah, my gold is welcome here with these folks. But imagine arriving here today without doing any warm-ups, just coming into this room. Like, I have all the clay from today. Maybe y'all did too. We go right into this conversation. Yeah, maybe we're dealing with clay gold hybrids. We spent a good hour or so doing these exercises, these improv games that you do in your profession. And the result is I feel completely open right now. Same two people, but just the process that you took us through, it is a process to get to safety. It's not an on and off switch. And I think that's a really important thing to let at least the audience know, that it's not like either you have it or you don't. We all have it. What are the tools that can help us access it? And I really appreciate that is what you do. You help people access their goal. And I think that's just wonderful.
Yeah, huge kudos to you, Stacie and Wayne and Speechless for bringing that into our work life. Because I think that work life is where we spend most of our time and where we accumulate most of this clay.
Right.
Yeah.
And having worked in hospitals out of all places in many capacities, I see that in so many different ways of doctors right now just being suppressed, and doctors have a ton of kindness and things to give, but this hardening is happening in where we need most softness and compassion. And so I can't wait to see your story as a company and your story as Stacie also, in like growing in providing this work and helping people come out of their shells, dust off some of that clay, and really become who they've always dreamt to be. It's an inside joke because of all the exercises we did today.
And it's an even deeper inside joke because at FLS Plus, Speechless is the former name. Anything you want to call it works. That is an inside joke on that team too. So it's an inside joke within an inside joke within. Now everybody knows the inside joke. So we're all inside.
You're all in on it, folks.
And we've done the improv work, which I feel like melted down stuff and really let the gold out. But Paul, you led us through a Qigong exercise first. We used then some tarot cards to open up to each other and used the cards to express what's going on between us in our own lives so that we can be able to hold each other, be able to understand each other. And I think that's what made this conversation so much fucking fun.
Yeah, exactly. And the gold, I feel like the gold that we're all taught, that we keep talking about, another word for that could just be the truth. Like the truth of who we are. How can we find the truth and share that truth with others? And it's just such a juicy topic to find out how you get from the clay to the gold, and how can you share that gold, that truth with others that you feel safe with. And maybe sometimes you don't feel safe, but you, as Paul, you were saying, you need to share it anyway.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to add about your work and the change it's bringing to the world, or that you hope it brings to the world? Like, where do you see this? How do you see this work unfolding in the current climate?
I can see this. I think that some of the work that we're doing right now is just bringing improv to communities that don't have access to it, not just tech companies, but going into different communities and sharing this, whether it's we go to the communities or different communities come to us, or we meet halfway. I think that everyone in some way should have this level of playfulness and almost like lightness, especially right now. Everything is just like boom. It's heavy out there. And I heard this quote, we use this quote at work all the time, that you learn more about a person in 1 hour of play than you do in 1 year of conversations with someone. So it's that sticks with me. It feels so powerful. And we did it today. We totally played for an hour, and I do not think I can feel more comfortable and safe with you both. And I feel like I got to know you both, even though we know each other so well.
Yeah. No, there are dimensions of the both of you that I was tapped into today that I didn't always tap into before because of what we created upstairs. So I had never heard that expression before about an hour of play versus a year of conversation, but that is so fucking true. It is so true.
Ready to wrap up?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Finale? Okay.
Oh, maybe what I'll just add, I shared like where FLS Plus, where I see the vision going is just making this work accessible to all. But specifically myself, I really am enjoying working with women, especially women whose first language is not English. And that, for whatever reason, has been just, I've learned so much from these individuals. And that is personally where I want to explore more, is helping women use their voice, especially if they're communicating and presenting in English and that's not their native language. And that work has just been so absolutely rewarding. And it's been an honor to work with those women. And I just want to give a special shout out to all of them for showing me so much. So
All right.
So I feel like I started off with a pretty deep crying scenario story. And maybe to end it, I would be very curious to hear if there's any stories that stick out to you both around crying. I know that crying plays a different part in different genders and different backgrounds, people in general. And I am curious what comes up when I talk about crying again.
I guess we're not getting out of that one, Paul.
We'll be here all night.
I did my time. It's your turn.
I'll start by saying that I have so many memories of me being young and crying. And I used to actually cry really easily when I was not just like a baby, but even into like my early teens. And there were many stories. There's a specific memory that I have of playing basketball. I was team captain and people weren't taking it seriously, and me getting really pissed off and screaming, showing my anger, but people continued. I was the only one taking it seriously, and it was a PE class, but I really cared about basketball. So you don't kick the fucking basketball with your foot. You don't double dribble. You don't hold the ball and run around the court like an idiot. So I was fucking pissed, and I remember screaming at them on the court. No one was responding, and then I started crying, and they laughed harder. And I remember like walking in class. This was end of middle school, maybe even early high school, and I remember just being so sad, and then walking in class, and it's almost like this walk of shame of everyone looking at me as the crier. And I remember tears being so close. So when you're talking about the catharsis that comes from crying, I remember that from a very long time ago. And Paul and I had the fortune of reconnecting with that part in 2019. And it was such a critical part of my personal story because I was just leaving San Francisco. I remember we left on July 4th and saw all the fireworks, and we went up to Ashland to join my therapist who has been practicing internal family systems. We talked about that before, season 1, episode 6. Shameless plug in there.
Heck yeah.
But then we were invited to go to this men's circle, not knowing what it is. And I remember walking in there and first feeling like, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I spending the weekend with these men? I have nothing in common with them. And I can't believe I'm doing this, and that I paid money to come sit with these men for 2 days. And there's just so much resistance, I remember. And we started doing some exercises. A lot had to do with the armoring, I remember. A lot of meditation around the armors that we build around ourselves as men, which can be translated into clay, right? This is what we're talking about. This clay that I have accumulated from these old men laughing at me when I could not give a speech, these kids laughing at me when I was serious about a sport or showed passion for a sport. And so I remember going through like these meditations, and then there was a critical moment where, and this moment really was the seed for me to want to write a novel, and the seed to create this podcast, and really I saw the power of sharing in a circle. And that's a lot of it was us men. How many people were we, Paul?
I want to say between 20 and 30. Was it that many?
No, it was maybe like
15 to
15.
20.
Yeah, 15 sounds right.
Yeah.
I think less than 20, because every man had to go and do some deep work.
Yes.
Basically. And we did that over the weekend, so we all got to witness each other and be part of each other's healing. And I know that sounds weird because that's also what I thought back then. But there's this particular moment where I remember he was the second guy to go. The first one was a very powerful share. It was very energetic, lots of anger, lots of that energy. But the second one started off very gently. And I remember he started by reading a poem, and he was a poet. And the way he looked, his love for words, and the way he spoke reminded me of something. There was this nostalgic feeling about him. and I didn't know where it was coming from, but the work that he did was that he was feeling very sad, and they started asking him questions. There are three amazing facilitators that weekend that really knew what they were doing and knew when to ask questions, when to make space, when to let them express, when to support. And so they let him share, and there was this whole longing for his brother, and he felt that his brother didn't really look out for him when he was growing up in a rough neighborhood. And they asked him if someone in the room reminded him of his brother, and he chose one of the men, and they brought both of them into the circle and started asking them questions, almost recreating that memory for them together. And the guy started going deeper and deeper into how much he wanted to connect with his brother, and he started talking to the other men as though he was his brother. And sure enough, it was as though two brothers were having a conversation between us. It was like we were transported into that guy's memory. And he started first being angry at his brother for abandoning him, and then that turned into a lot of first anger, that turned into some sort of screaming, that turned into crying, that then turned into like heaving, and then turned into like just a complete upheaval of himself. And there was this kind of deep guttural sadness that was, he was just like, it wasn't even like crying, it was like purging through like his core. Just, I remember it like being and then like gasping for air because he was really like releasing that thing. And I remember him like at one point the other guy held him, and then they hugged each other, and then they asked us to go around and gather around them in a circle. And I remember being not too close to them, so all I can touch was his hair. And I remember feeling that, you know, his hair reminded me of my hair, and I started seeing myself in him. And it was the first time that I can see someone's suffering and identify my own suffering and purge with him, because I will never have the courage to cry that way. I was like, I've been deprogrammed. And so it was so powerful to just be, you know, speaking of creating space and safety and healing others, like when someone expresses that much in a space where people are willing to receive it, we all heal together. It wasn't just him. We all healed together.
You're so right. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Was it as dramatic for you, Paul, or is this just all in my head?
No, it was as you told it. That is exactly what happened. I remember I was affected in a different way, because I don't think I was ready to tap into my own sadness at that moment. I remember feeling both like deep compassion for the man, but also a lot of resistance, because I wasn't ready to reverberate in that space with him, but still had so much respect. And even though I couldn't necessarily resonate with what he was feeling, even though that shit was definitely there waiting to pop, I felt like I was in a sacred place, because here was a man that was not just doing his work in the most honest, raw way I had ever seen in my life. And I felt nothing but respect and awe for him, but I knew what he was doing for the space. And then eventually, after speaking with you, learned about the impact that had, and then everything that came from there.
Yeah, it shows you the importance of, or the impact that your own self-expression can have on other people. It's what a brave thing to do, to express truthfully. It's wonderful when safety is there, and it sounds like it was in that room. And it's a really brave thing to find that gold and release it.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I can trust someone who can do that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sense of trust. There's a sense of freedom to be in the presence of someone who can just say or express, whether it's with words or with sounds, something that is true. And you know it's true because you can feel it. You can feel that they've tapped into something that is so real. And just we as people, we can sense when someone else is in that place.
And it's contagious.
It's contagious, yes.
And seeing men do that work really gives me a lot of faith in change. And in a lot of conversations, I see people being very angry at men. I'm angry at men. I'm angry at myself. And a lot of things that I did in the name of being a man. But, I'm working on it. And there are so many men that are working on it. And there is, when talking about safety, I think the problem with men is that we have a shit ton of insecurity that is not processed in the same way that women are able to process through safe space, but also through touch.
Yeah.
We're like very homophobic and like very my space, my backyard. Whereas, so we don't release a lot of these insecurities and they just grow and make us do these horrible things. But every man has the capacity to become himself and has the right to express.
Yeah. Even though it's becoming increasingly less, the fact that it is a patriarchal society, it is a dangerous thing when the leaders of our world, the sort of structure, are being guided by those who haven't healed, who are able to act through those insecurities. I think it explains a lot of the strife that we see in this world, but also the importance of the kind of work that you're talking about. That if we can do more of this, if we can, like, I'm talking about men specifically, that healing can bring out a lot of transformation across the board. But it is a difficult thing because not everyone feels it's A, accessible, or B, it's even appropriate for them. So may this conversation reach the ears of those who need permission. Because God damn it, you got it. You have permission.
Yeah. And if you need to cry, you know who to call. It's either Paul, me, or Omar. We will be with you so that you can move through.
Yes.
We will hold you.
We'll play with your hair.
We'll make you tea.
Yeah.
You make the best tea.
We'll play games.
Yeah. We'll do Qigong.
We'll do Qigong.
Put on some incense.
And we'll bring you in wonderful sound booth for you to express yourself just like we just did today.
And we will remind you of the gold that you are.
Yes.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
You're golden. Gold. Shed the clay.
Shed the clay.
Get shiny.
I did not expect to start and end on crying in the self-expression episode.
Wow.
Wow.
Thank you both so much for doing so much for listeners, for your guests, for taking such good care of people around you, for taking such good care of yourselves. I love you both so much, and this has been so much fun. I can't wait to cry about it later.
Thank you so much, Stacie.
Of course.
Can we please have you back on the Gumcast?
Yes, my answer is yes.
And Paul, thank you so much, man. Thanks for sharing yourself. Thanks for leading us. Thanks for wearing this incredible golden shirt.
Wow, how weird is that?
Paul is
gold.
literal gold today.
Oh.
We will post a picture so that you can guys at least enjoy.
I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoyed making it. Season 3 is going to be recorded live. We're going to be doing it with a live audience and a live music set. So if you're in San Francisco, stay tuned on findgumption.com. And again, please support us by becoming a paid subscriber so that we can continue to produce these episodes after we record them live, so that we can broadcast them to you wherever you are. And thank you again for being part of this journey. It means a lot for me that you are here. And please let us know what you think of this Gumpcast in Season 2 so far. And you can also email me at omar@shaker.health for any ideas, or even if you want to be on the podcast with us. We are very open to that. We'd love to hear your story. And in the end, I hope that along this journey, you have uncovered some of the things that have created some clay and stuckness around your life, and that you can start shedding some of that so that more of the gold inside of you can shine. Have a great day or a great night wherever you are, and we'll be seeing you in season 3 after a short break. This is Omar Shaker, and a special shout out goes out to Mustafa Al-Izabi, who is the sound editor of all of season 2. We could not have made it this far without him. Thank you so much for all the work and effort you put in. It's truly a labor of love, and the friendship that I'm building with you throughout this project really means a lot. And he's really the guy in the trenches making this shit happen. So thank you, Mustafa Al-Izabi. I highly recommend him if you have sound engineering and editing projects. And we look forward to adding more people on the team so that we can create even cooler shit in the next season. And I look forward to seeing you then.